how can we build? I was told a strong community, but I think I want to say, how can we build a caring community? Because caring community makes a lot of difference. Once we care for each other, we become strong. And so I did make a decision that I didn't want to call it a strong community, because you know what? There are a lot of people who are strong when it comes to battle too. So caring community, that's basically what the Prophet ﷺ embodied in his actions, embodied in his hadith, embodied in his daily life, where he tried his hardest to build a caring community. Okay. Can that happen? Obviously, history tells us it's impossible, because we have, when he left this world, some of us, or some of the followers, took a different direction, right? You know, because the nafs is very strong, right? So that's where it starts. Because if that nafs is so weak, then I cannot care for my brothers and sisters, whoever they are, or in whatever belief they have. So I want to define community. What does community mean? It's pretty simple. You go to any dictionary, and the community comes from the word common. Simple, common. Something that a community may have something in common. Not everything in common, but some of the issues we have. We're the Muslim, we identify ourselves with certain tenets. So we have something in common. For example, alhamdulillah, we pray together. That's something we do in common. Okay? We are told, for example, not to cheat, not to lie, to be kind to others, and so forth. These are some of our teachings, but do we all do it? We don't all do it, because if each one of us has a completely different nafs and different challenges, and these, in a sense, they impact our behavior on a daily basis. Then what is a community? A community is a supporting system, just a system. Anywhere, whether it's a larger community or a smaller community, a community of 4 families, a community, is a social community, or a larger community. Okay, in Islamic, so there are Islamic communities who are in numbers maybe 20 or 25 in the States, and there are communities who are in the hundreds, and there are communities who are in the thousands. So different sizes, but the community gives support. What kind of support? Or should give support. And I'll say what kind of a support. And this is something based upon my experience. I've worked in 4 communities, okay? And I'm not really going to traditions or anything like this. I'm talking about my personal experience on the ground. I worked in 4 communities. I have visited about 5 or 6 speaking. I have been coming here since 1987. I'm that old? So it's been a long time. The Muslim group is a history. There's a history behind it. And alhamdulillah, that continuation, bringing the brothers and sisters here, coming together, that's a community. But it's a temporary community, right? There are certain guidelines that we have to follow. We have something in common. But we're talking about the more permanent community, where you live on a daily basis and how things are going about. And what kind of support that community should have. I'm sorry, how much time do I have? Because I tend to talk a lot, so I need to know my time. Are you sure you're giving me enough time, brother? I mean, the audience wants an extra 5 minutes. Yeah, here you go. No, it's not gonna work, man. I gotta do something here. Okay, that's okay. We'll move on. I'll try to be fast, because it's something that I needed to pay attention to. Community. Physical support is very important in the community. Okay. Social support, psychological support, educational support, economic, to all individuals. And above all, support diversity, where race, nationalities, colors are respected and tolerated. And the sense of belonging. You have to feel the sense of the belonging in the community. And freedom from everything except the creative force. This is extremely important. The creative force, that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of this universe. who according to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is referred to by many names. Allah, Dieu, Dios, whatever the names have been calling this entity that created all things, okay, to be bonded to it. Okay, that's where it all starts. I want to diverse a little bit here, just give you a little bit of where we stand as far as living in this society, living in this time. Forget about the society, because I've been in Lebanon, and there's no difference between the life as in Hijazi, because a lot of things are universal now. Right? The capitalists claims to promote diversity, but in reality they promote hegemony, because the bonding force of capitalism, the bonding force, okay, of capitalism is consumerism. Through all its branches, America became a mega culture of consumers. Instead we, the many cultures, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Muslims, the Jews, the Christians, whoever, those little tiny communities, different races and religious orientations have submitted to the will of capitalism. We have become under the spell of that capitalism. Consumerism is an act of buying something as a result of a psycho-emotional need. We buy things not because we need it physically, because we need it psychologically, emotionally. We have been trained to buy things. And let's be honest here. As Muslims, we are in the same bath. We are under that spell. And you can go reflect and look at how many shirts you have in your closets, how many shoes you have, how many that you probably would not be able to wear on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. Okay. Not the majority, but this is basically the culture that we're talking about here. An Islamic community, just like any other community, is being devoured by the two poles of production and consumption. No two ways about it. You can go do a lot of research. I'm not going to go, but this is basically the system of capitalism and how things work. Production and consumption, right? That's basically how it is. So there's a supply and demand. If I have 100 cars and I cannot handle the cars, I'm going to have to find ways so you can buy the car. Okay? Because I'm going to find a way for you to get rid of that car who's been basically working very well, but I'm going to go ahead and find a way so you can buy that new car and dispel of the other car that's still working. Just giving an example here. Right? Because the world is so small right now, there's no more market. And guess what? Us Muslims, we are the frontier of consumerism right now. And I'll explain how. So, as a result, communities in general, including Islamic communities, are entangled in the web of these three-headed scorpion, whose sweet venom of sexual promiscuity is very important to understand that. Okay? We sell sex in here, in the society. And I know this is something that is tabooed, but you can go everywhere, wherever you go to billboards, go everywhere, this is what. And then who are the ones that are being used are our women. Our brothers and sisters, whether they're in humanity or whether they're Christians or Jews, whoever they are, we are all under that spell. Okay. That's one. 2, consumption. 3, individualism. Okay. These are poisoning the human consciousness. They're affecting the souls. Okay. The heads are major corporations, the so-called democratic elected government, and the media in all its faces. And boy, sports is so powerful for our men with testosterone. Okay. Very powerful. And then next to these images, you see these people who is playing football or basketball. I'm not discouraging sports. Please don't misunderstand me. But when you take something and again, I'm gonna be blunt here. And when you take something that is so valued, that is so important okay, to be physically fit and to have these entertaining things, or to have these physical, but to prostitute it, okay, is not Islamic, nor is it human, right? And we do a lot of things. We do a lot. Capitalism does that. Okay? It moves us from our true self, who we are. It deviates us from our true nature. 10 minutes. Man. All right. Let me talk from an Islamic perspective here. The common core values of our belief system is usul. We all agree. Usul al-Din are pretty much the basis, okay? And from it comes the furu', all such as salat, for example, right? Salat is a very founding, it comes from the word sila, to bond. Bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and bond the community as well. Okay, that's why Salat al-Jama'ah is one of the most important. It's a very important to pray as a Jama'ah, because it creates some sort of a spiritual bond. It's not a physical bond. We're not talking about physically bonded, right? So as a result, communities in general, but philosophy without, we need to understand that we have usul, we have philosophy, but without practice, it has no meanings. We can sit down and talk intellectually about these things, but if it's not practiced, it doesn't have any meaning. So now, if we understand the superstructure of this society as a consumerist society, then we can open our mind and we can start giving, how can we really build a community that is living in a society that we swim in that ocean of consumerism and capitalism? How can we basically build that society or that community? We can build it at the physical dimension. And the physical dimension I mean by the facility itself and the environment. Most of the facilities I have visited, even though we are getting better in the physical facilities, are disorganized, cluttered because of inefficient planning, and is not conducive to children who most of the time roam the building relentlessly. In my opinion, the ideal location of a center should be either a connection to the natural environment, okay, or inside an ecosystem, a natural ecosystem, and has to be organized, and it has to be addresses the need of everybody in that center. Okay. As a matter of fact, the need of the children are priorities, and the youth are priorities. Okay. As an educator, I cannot basically stress that more than I've been principal for about 20 years. I've been through generations, and I honestly, it's my experience that we need to really invest on the children, on the youth. Okay, but I see it the other way around. I see in the centers we address the need of the male, older male, okay, and the female are most of the time marginalized. The kids are marginalized. They are not the center of attention. That's my experience through the centers that I have been to. So where do we go from here? So the physical entity is extremely important, where you're going to have to basically make sure that the system inside is built in a way that is going to address the need of everybody. Okay. Governing bodies, and this is basically a very important part of a community. There are two governing bodies. There's a religious scholar who basically has a veto power most of the time, right? And there are board members who are, who have my experience, who have been on the boards. They don't have much experience about managing centers or managing communities. They don't have management skills. There are donors, alhamdulillah, they're giving, but they are placed in the board because they donate money and they have some sort of a entitlement, I do believe. I don't know where it is, but this is basically the two governing bodies that we need to work on, obviously. Okay, most of the times, there has to be some sort of checks and balances. I'm proposing a board members as a community that is caring and makes it strong, is to have more female presence in the boards, to have younger younger, which means people from the 20s until the 30s who really understand this culture more than you and I. I'm 63, I may not understand that culture very well, who have been born here or been raised here. They do understand it, so they need to basically, the younger need to be involved a little bit more. And then we have to also discuss, we have to make sure that in these boards you have specialists. Specialists in health, specialists in engineering, specialists in all different aspects. So when there's a problem, you are covering it. You're not leaving it to people who really do not have the expertise, even though they should be going to the experts, but that's not happening. Okay? Philosophical dimension, I really want to move out of there. I'm just going to give, because I have 5 minutes. When I'm talking about philosophical dimension, in motion, okay? When we talk about philosophy in motion, the difference between a prophet and a philosopher is the philosopher basically theorizes but does not act on the ground. The prophet has philosophy, but he takes that philosophy and practices it on the ground. Okay? So we need to take that philosophy and put it in motion. Act on it. Social dimension. This is, boy, 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Social dimension. This is actually the second most important element of a community. Okay? As a matter of fact, without a social network, philosophical dimension is ineffective. Part of the social dimension should be geared to address the needs of the family. The primary social unit and the manifestation of the principle of unity. Family should be the manifestation of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Then you have the larger community, which is the community is the secondary social unit, should support and propagate a family that develops a strong bond among its members. This can take place through activities such as social gatherings, sports activities, camping, hiking, picnic, all sorts of clubs, carnivals, parenting workshop, consumer awareness, counseling, youth workshops, senior citizen activities, and activities that bond the grandparents to the grandchildren. This is so important, and I don't see that in many of the communities, where the grandparents and the grandchildren. I grew up where I had a lot of grandparents, and not in the village, a lot of older people, and they give me a lot of support for some reason. That energy, that interaction is so important. Okay. Psychological dimension. It's very important we understand that we live in a society that is very stressful. Okay, honestly, I mean, we all need it. We all need to really try to learn how to re-stress. Yes, we come and we pray, but our prayer becomes so redundant. We need somebody to help us. So we need people in the community that people can go to and help. And then you see, the alim sometimes will help, but it's only one person. And if I have a community that is about maybe 5 or 6 or 1,000 individuals, that's going to be pretty tough. So there has to be some experts who are basically handling the psychological and emotional needs of the community members. Educational, I'm an educator and I'm biased. I mean, if you want to call it unbiased, I'm for education, I'm for schools in every single center, no matter how small or large it is. I think that's the only way to go. And some of my students are in the audience and they know what I'm talking about. I have kids come to me and they're in pre-K. They were in pre-K and kindergarten when I was their principal. Boy, and they're here and I see them serving and I see them being part of it. I see the strong identity. It has to be started at a young age, and schools will solve that problem. Economic. We have to have an economic system that's going to need, that help the needy, and we do have it, alhamdulillah, through khums, but there has to be something organized. Support diversity. This is Islam is the champion of diversity, diverse living. Unfortunately, this is the least that we really stress in the communities, in the centers, and we need to really work on it. We have a lot of work to do. Okay. Historical dimension, and I really appreciate, the brothers who talked about Nabi Isa and the religion of unity. I really think that if we are to make it to have an effect in the society in this time, okay, is for us to really commemorate and talk about the history of all the prophets, from Prophet Muhammad, from Prophet Adam to Prophet Muhammad, not only concentrate on Ahlul Bayt and Rasulullah. Because yes, we know, you and I know that when we talk about Prophet Muhammad, he's the culmination, we're talking about everybody. But the outside world does not understand that. So if we heavily really concentrate on all the prophets, time's up, all the prophets, right, we will be able to have an impact on society at large.